All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the RTI Reaction Show. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Standing here in the Food City Center as Tennessee picks up a big top 15 win over Mississippi State by a score of 68-56. Ryan, Tennessee really got off to a good start, and a lot of that was because of the defensive side of the basketball. But man, you got to talk about the scoring from Chaz Lanier tonight. 23 points, 5 of 12 shooting from the three-point line. After such a tough ending in Nashville against Vanderbilt last week, great to see Lanier be able to bounce back, be able to get back into his rhythm a little bit. And look, he hadn't hit 23 points since when he hit 29 against Arkansas. So this was a big return to form for Lanier.
For sure, and I think you said it with Tennessee starting fast. He hits 2 threes in the first couple minutes. Tennessee gets out to an 8-0 lead. Mississippi State takes a timeout. He hit 4 of those 5. I think it was 4-7 from three-point range in the first half. So he just got going early, and that was big. And look, we talked about it after the game in Nashville that he shot pretty well. He hit 4 of 6 three-point attempts in that game, but a lot of turnovers. Obviously, the tough ending for him tonight. Took care of the basketball. Just had a good overall performance. So it feels like, even though it was such a rough ending and some bad things, there were some things moving in the right direction from the Vanderbilt game, and he built on that tonight. And he was the Chaz Lanier Tennessee needs if they're going to reach their ceiling.
Yeah, and I think that's a really encouraging sign. Again, not that he had necessarily fallen off a cliff or anything, but those numbers just weren't to where they were, and especially from a consistent perspective. If this is something, and again, maybe not 23 points every game, but if just getting back up to the 17, which is what he had against Vanderbilt, 17 to 23-point range, that is certainly encouraging for Tennessee.
Yeah, I think you'd almost just say you hope you can get his floor to like 15 points. A bad game if he's scoring 15, just to have some consistent offensive punch, and I think that would do a lot for this team because of the lack of depth, because of the lack of 2-point scoring. Not that Chaz is always going to score for 2, but just when you cannot hit threes at a consistent, or when you can't score from at the rim at a consistent rate, you're very susceptible to have some bad offensive games. And if Chaz is going to score, you know it's probably going to be from hitting jump shots. So if he's hitting a couple threes, even in bad games, I think that goes a long way for Tennessee. And certainly he was a big part of a solid offensive performance tonight.
Yeah, one of those other pieces to that performance, Felix Okpara, somebody who got an extra little mention there from Rick Barnes in his post-game press conference. 9 points, I believe a season-high 12 rebounds. Is that correct?
Yep.
And really, again, kind of has been continuing this nice little run that he's been on. I think it's certainly been impressive to the teammates and coaching staffs. But what have you seen from Felix Okpara, and why is he able to give Tennessee just a little something extra, and how is that beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, I think he just has some juice around the rim defensively. And look, I think you think of what Tennessee lacked defensively last year at the rim with Jonas Adu, you think largely of the 2 Mississippi State games where they got bullied inside. And Mississippi State head coach Chris Jans talked about it in this post-game press conference that Felix Okpara brings him a little more physicality. He's a little stronger than maybe he looks on film. And Rick Barnes said Mississippi State manhandled us twice last year. We couldn't let that happen tonight. I thought tonight was as physical as we've seen Okpara play. And that just built, is another good sign from him, or another good element of his game. But he's just been very versatile around the rim, changing shots, blocking shots. That's been big. He really honestly wasn't great at cleaning up the bunnies tonight, which he's been better at the last handful of games. But he had the play of the game, a second career made 3. As the shot clock expired, I think Mississippi State was on a 15-4 run to open up the second half. They got in Tennessee's lead to 7 when the game felt over at halftime. He knocked that down in the shot clock, gets it to 10. The lead never got to single digits again. So I felt like that was arguably the play of the game, and a very uncharacteristic play for Felix Okpara. You're not going to expect to get that too much, but another, again, it just feels like he's been honestly one of Tennessee's more consistent players in SEC play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it was Mike Wilson. Somebody in the media asked after the game just, hey, what was sort of Rick Barnes' message coming out of that Vanderbilt game? And Chaz Lanier and Felix Okpara said, hey, look, we're challenged to be tough. And certainly that physicality was brought tonight by Okpara. And then, Okpara said that he feels like he's got the green light now. I'm not sure if that's going to continue, but he had a little bit of fun with that three-pointer again in his post-game press conference. Jordan Gainey adds 10 points. Jemai Mashack had a nice game. He scores 10 points as well. Hit 2 corner threes from back here. Certainly gave Tennessee a spark in the second half. But I don't know how many minutes we've gone. It's hard to go this long, though, without mentioning Tennessee's defense. I almost said Ohio State because of the football game yesterday. Mississippi State only scored 16 points in the first half. Chaz Lanier, by that point, had 14 points of his own. But then the Bulldogs start to get a little bit of momentum coming out of the second half. Again, I believe they scored 15 points in the first 5 minutes. But Tennessee's defense was really able to build them that lead early on in the game. Tennessee was able to keep the Bulldogs pretty much at arm's length from that point out. But what did you see from the defense that you liked?
Yeah, it just felt like
More of that physicality?
Yeah, physicality. It felt like they were locked in from the jump to the scouting report. Communication was better. I mean, those were, especially the communication was a big emphasis in a bad defensive game at Vanderbilt. And look, I think that's just the identity of this program. They had a very bad defensive game in the loss in Nashville on Saturday. You don't see that much from this team, this program. So you feel confident that's not going to happen 2 times in a row. And Tennessee certainly came out. They were locked into the scouting report, played really well on that end of the court. And to your point, like you said, 16 in the first half for Mississippi State, 15 by the under, 4 timeout. I think it was 2 points for Mississippi State in the next 6, like 30 from that point. So after that hot stretch, Tennessee locked it in again, shut down Mississippi State, and just no easy looks at the rim. It didn't feel like for Mississippi State in this game. They missed some open threes, some shots that they could have made there, but just nothing easy at the basket for the Bulldogs.
A couple of stats that you might want to know about. Tennessee wins the rebounding battle 36-31. Tennessee wins the assist battle 15-8. Tennessee won the turnover battle 11-10. That one a little bit closer. And then Tennessee was effective in transition today with 14 points as a whole. Ryan, especially in SEC play, when you're playing a top 15, that right there is a pretty good recipe for success.
For sure, and I think
basic, but a pretty good recipe.
Yeah, no, very basic, but maybe an ode to Nate Oates here. It's kind of a game of math. You take more shots, your chances of winning are a lot better. And now that Tennessee took a ton today, but typically winning the offensive rebounding battle, winning the turnover battle is the main recipe to do that. So I thought Tennessee, after a shaky start on the turnover stretch, I think they had 3 by the first media timeout. They settled in there. It was a solid game there. And then on the glass, they didn't just pummel Mississippi State, but like we said, a team that kind of pummeled them on the glass twice last year. They were very solid there tonight. So that, like you said, that was a big piece of it for Tennessee.
Yeah, and then a balanced game just overall. Tennessee finishes with 68 points. They scored 34 points in the first half. That means they had to score 34 in the second half as well, right there down the middle. Mississippi State did score 40 points in the second half of action, but again, Tennessee did a great job to work and build that lead in the first 20 minutes that they were able to keep the Bulldogs at arm's length from that point out. Any other kind of thoughts on the game today, or at least maybe where Tennessee is going, which is going to be a big one coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's just from that aspect, Tennessee needed to win the night after losing on Saturday. Not that Tennessee can't win this coming Saturday at Auburn, but not a game I like Tennessee's chances in. So Tennessee needed to win the night. Otherwise, you'd be really staring down the barrel of a potential or a probable 3-game losing streak with Kentucky and Florida next week. So Tennessee needed to win the night, and a good response for them to get the job done.
Tennessee moves to 17-2 on the season, 4-2 in SEC play with the win. Again, a 68-56 win over number 14 Mississippi State. Always nice to get a top 15, top 25 win here in the middle of the week. But as Ryan alluded to, there's still a lot to come for the Vols. I believe it's 4 straight games against a ranked opponent coming up, and then 5 out of the next 6 games are also against a ranked opponent. So we'll see, obviously, how those rankings stay throughout the next couple of weeks. But a lot of challenging teams on the horizon for Tennessee, but a nice start to get the ball rolling here with a win at home.
Yeah, definitely. In a lot of ways, kind of felt like a must-win for Tennessee.
Sure.
Obviously, that's a little dramatic, but again,
just
they needed
in the context of things.
Exactly. Yeah. So, going to be a lot of challenges. Obviously, their most difficult game on the schedule on Saturday, and then they'll come back here for 2 games next week against 2 really good teams, Kentucky and Florida.
Again, Tennessee wins this one by a score of 68-56. This is Ryan Shumpert. I am Rick Butler. We're both giving Felix Okpara the green light just for a little bit of entertainment. Hey, stick around for the next one. We will both be in Auburn, Alabama for the top 6 game, which is going to be a huge one as Tennessee and Rick Barnes go to take on Bruce Pearl and the Tigers. Make sure to be following Rec Top Insider for that whole thing. Otherwise, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for making it to the end. See you back for the next one.